biggest, my defensive player of the game for the Vikings was one Captain Munnerlyn. That guy was lights out. The play he made to cause the fumble when it looked like in the second half, when it looked like the Detroit Lions might be making a run here. It's like a one-possession game, and they got the ball, and they're marching down the field. And Captain Munnerlyn recognizes the play to the wide receiver, sheds the block, he was totally blocked. He did a phenomenal job, sheds the block, makes the tackle on the guy for no advance, and then rips the ball out. And then he would have recovered that fumble easily had Sendejo not happened to be, by that point in time right next to him. But no, Captain Munnerlyn, your defensive player of the game. My primary and pretty much only question mark on defense at this point now, other than that other safety position with Sendejo, is your other outside corner, currently occupied by Terrence Newman. Some plays Terrence Newman is okay and can hang in there, and his crafty veteranness can get the job done. But there are several plays every week that he just can't make, period, under any circumstances. And that's not going to change ever for any reason. It is what it is. So at some point in this season, if the Vikings are to make a playoff push, and go anywhere in the playoffs, Terrence Newman needs to become your dime back and get out of that base 4-3 primarily, as well as out of the nickel formation. So then your potential you have to keep Munnerlyn in the nickel. You got to, and Xavier's obviously your number one. So then everybody's thinking Trey Waynes. That is not the correct person to think, at least not at first. We hope that at some point in time it will be Trey Waynes, and then he'll get the job done. That's why we made him a first-round pick. However, the person that we should be looking to do this within the next 1 to 4 weeks, taking Newman's starting outside corner spot from him, is one returning from suspension, Jabari Price. Mark my words. Remember that name. Keep an eye out for that. Over the next 1, 2, 3 weeks, you will see less of Terrence Newman and more of Jabari Price. Lock it in. And then finally, like I said, wrapping it up, coaches did a much better job. Our coaches got horribly outcoached in San Francisco, and they greatly outcoached the coaching staff of the Detroit Lions. There was still plenty of game management things, both from Norv Turner and Mike Zimmer, that can and will at some point in time bite you in the butt when you're playing for the highest stakes against the highest level of competition, and you have the smallest room for error. However, that was not the case this last week, and it didn't matter. So all is good here in purple and gold country. All right, so there is your Balls on Fire Vikings opening segment. Again, almost another hour of music, of Vikings talk for the opening of the show. All right, now we'll put Balls on Fire out, and here in the next, over the next several moments, we will finish up our football talk. Again, thanks for listening to Balls Deep Sports Talk. That's what you're listening to, Balls Deep Sports Talk, with me, your host, Scotty Ball, every Wednesday night on WNLMradio.com, or you can listen 24/7, 365, 69 on the Spreaker app, the TuneIn app, SoundCloud, and YouTube. All right, so let's get to those Week 2 results. By the way, I apologize on my picks last week. So I said that sometimes you're gonna have that with the best football minds. Sometimes you're gonna win some, sometimes you're gonna lose some. Opening week, I got 10 of the 16 games right. Last week, I was 1 under half. I only got 7 of the 16 games right. So sorry to anyone who used too many of my picks. But a lot of them were kind of fluky in a way too. And you just can't predict that kind of stuff. Starting out with the Thursday night game where we had the Denver Broncos in miraculous fashion end up beating the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City by a score of 31-24. They scored 2 touchdowns. in the final minute of that game. There was Jamal Charles fumbles, late. The Chiefs were winning that game for pretty much the entirety of it, just up until the very end, until they choked it away. So I got that one wrong. Like I said, Chiefs fall to the Denver Broncos, 31-24 in the Thursday night game. Then we had the Atlanta Falcons on the road beat the New York Giants. Got that one right. Don't recall any noteworthy stuff from that game. The New England Patriots score 40 points in surprising fashion on what most people believe to be one of the, if not the best defenses in football this year, the Buffalo Bills, in Buffalo, to win by 40-32. Now, I think the real story here, there's two stories here. A, that a team was able to put up 40 points on the Buffalo Bills, but B, that the Buffalo Bills offense was able to put 32 points up on the Patriots defense. Is an equally big story, in my opinion. But I had the Bills winning that one in a close one at home, unfortunately. Then we had the Cardinals on the road beating easily the Chicago Bears by a score of 48-23. The Bears did look to be in it for a while in the first half until Jay Cutler went out with injury. Jimmy Clausen came in at quarterback, and that was all she wrote from that point on, and the Cardinals cruised throughout the rest of the game. And boy, if there's a sadder, more painful, truer statement and example of how bad it is for the Chicago Bears and to be a Bears fan right now, there was a time. It's still a time. We're still in that time. We should still be in that time. But we were in a time last year and the year before, and even this year, when one would think that, and has experienced that when Jay Cutler is your starting quarterback and you lose him and he goes down, that's a good thing for your team. Things are so bad for the Bears now that if and when Jay Cutler goes out for any reason, and someone else has to quarterback, it gets even worse. Yes, that is possible. That is a thing. Even worse than Jay Cutler at starting quarterback is a thing, and the Bears are dealing with that. So that shows you just how bad things have gotten for the Bears. Then also we had in the AFC, we had the San Diego Chargers lose on the road to the Bengals, 24-19. Got that one right. Chargers are the Vikings' Week 3 opponent. And if the Vikings simply use the same formula they used last week, be a run first, run second team, and play sound bend don't break defense, that should be a win in my opinion. However, Phillip Rivers is a very crafty quarterback, and can always find a way to win a game for his team. Then we had the Tennessee Titans lose at Cleveland to the Browns by a score of 14-28. Johnny Manziel had a couple touchdowns and looked fairly good in his appearance as their starting quarterback. Now, oddly enough, Josh McCown has cleared the concussion protocol, and he has been named the starter for the Cleveland Browns here this upcoming Week 3. And that makes zero sense to me whatsoever. I don't understand, especially dealing with a concussion. You can just say, well, yeah, he cleared protocol, but Johnny played good last week, and if we have the opportunity to be safe with McCown for one more week, we'll do it. That's how you pass it off. When really you're saying, we know you all want Johnny in yet, and Johnny had a good week. So let's give him one more week to either be bad and then we can put McCown back in, or be good again and then we can just say, well, no, he's earned the job. I don't see how going back to McCown under the premise that, well, he was our week one guy, he was our week one starter, and it was that way for a reason because he's better than Johnny and stuff like that. Like, I don't think much of Johnny Manziel at all as an NFL quarterback, but I don't agree with how they're going about this situation. As a coaching staff or a front office for the Cleveland Browns, no surprise there. Okay, so we also, as I said, we had the Vikings beat the Lions in Minnesota 26-16. We had the St. Louis Rams lose in Washington to the Redskins by a score of 24-10. The Redskins could very easily be 2-0. They almost won that Week 1 game. Their offensive line looks great. 2 weeks in a row now they have had a running back run for over 120 yards. So their offensive line is looking very good. Kirk Cousins is minimizing mistakes and doing a much better job of game management than RG3 ever did. And they might be a sneaky contender in that division that's horribly down this year and is going to continue to be. And I'll get to that in just a moment on why that is. And then in my second consecutive loss on Eliminator/Survivor picks, my lock for the week, the at-home New Orleans Saints, lost to the last year's worst team in all of football, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the Saints were at home, by the way. They lost by a score of 26-19. Is this the beginning of the end for Drew Brees? Would be the storyline to keep an eye on there going forward in the future. Then in Pittsburgh, we had the Steelers just whoop the 49ers 43-18, looking like the 49ers that we all expected them to be in Week 1. You also had the Texans losing on the road in Carolina to the Panthers by a touchdown score of 24-17. Then we had the Ravens lose on the road to the Raiders in entertaining fashion by a score of 37-33. We also had the Dolphins lose to the Jaguars 23-20 in a very close, good game. We had the Cowboys beat the Philadelphia Eagles 20-10. The big story in this game, other than how much the Philadelphia Eagles suck, and nobody should be surprised by that. I told you all that, this whole for over a year now, or almost a year now. I've been telling you that here on the show. But Tony Romo of the Dallas Cowboys, first they lose Dez Bryant for anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks. Now they have lost Tony Romo for an expected 8 to 12 week period as well. They have acquired Viking and Buffalo Bill reject Matt Castle to be a new backup, while Brandon Weeden, former first-round draft pick of the Cleveland Browns, is their starter moving forward. We had the Seattle Seahawks lose in Green Bay by a score of 27-17. The big story there is that Cam Chancellor now this week has decided that costing his team and teammates 2 losses in this season is enough of a punishment that they didn't deserve, and he can end his holdout for more money, although he is not happy with the situation. You can read his quotes. He doesn't anywhere apologize. It's really sad. But it's good for Seattle as a team and good for their fans, because this guy is going to result in wins immediately, and he is a huge impact maker, both on that defense and just in the locker room in general. So Seahawks are 0-2, but Cam Chancellor is finally now coming back, ending his holdout. And then in the Monday night game, we had the second in a row inexplicably pathetic performance from my Super Bowl runner-up pick, Indianapolis Colts, at home, where they fall to Ryan Fitzpatrick and the New York Jets by a score of 20-7. So your quick NFL standings for 2-0 teams in the league. We've got the New England Patriots and the surprising New York Jets. We've got the Cincinnati Bengals. We've got the Denver Broncos, who could and should very easily be 0-2. They're one of the worst 2-0 teams in football. And then over in the NFC, we have the 2-0 Falcons, the 2-0 Panthers. Both, benefit that from weak schedule and weak division, but they're also playing decent, especially the Falcons. You got the 2-0 Packers, who are legit. The 2-0 Cowboys, who, boy, they're just, if they can overcome all these hurdles, look out for them. But karma's the football gods seem to be trying to derail them early on in the season. And then out west, you've got your 2-0 Cardinals. Now then, you've also got your 0-2 teams, which would be the Seattle Seahawks, surprisingly, the Eagles and the Giants in the east, the Lions and Bears, to no surprise, in the north, the Saints, somewhat surprisingly, in the south, the Texans and Colts, surprisingly, in the AFC South, and then the Ravens, surprisingly, in the north, and no one in the east. And then everyone else is 1-1. So now that you know where everybody is at with the standings, let us get our Week 3 picks out of the way. We'll look to incorporate the fantasy football segment on next week's show, hopefully, as we will be running out of time here. I believe we got other stuff to talk about. So